Yo, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about hip hop culture. Is it dying? Is it already dead? Is it losing relevance?
Well, which I go back a little bit further than you do. I
Right.
think an appreciation for the culture of hip hop is being lost, but I don't think it's dead or dying. I don't know what your take is on that aspect of it, but
I mean, right now, I look at it as okay, so let's just break down what is hip hop culture from what I know, and you probably know a little bit more in depth, but from what I know, hip hop started out, we had graffiti artists, which it wasn't considered hip
right,
hop, we just had graffiti artists. Then guys started using break beats, spinning them, mixing them
right,
in the park, right?
right,
Then guys started coming out there, laying out cardboard, dancing. So we had graffiti, then we had DJs, then we had B-boys. The MC was actually the guy that the DJ said, man, I'm too busy spinning these records. Come up here and, say something.
right.
And they were like, what's going on, guys? And yes, yes, y'all. Like keeping the party
Well,
going.
yeah, they were called toasters. I mean, they
Correct.
said a lot of things. The DJ was the main attraction, and they were bigging up the DJ. And then it later progressed to where they're. And by the way, Busy Bee was really the most famous name associated with toasters.
And then it evolved into the MC, Master of Ceremony, saying, you know what? I'm going to write my own stuff. And when he's spinning these break beats, I'm going to come out and ask him, I'm going to go do a song, do a verse, something, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get the party hype.
Right,
And then it evolved into rappers. So rap was the final key in hip hop.
right,
And guys, excuse if you hear that noise, that's the dog, so I can't do anything about that. But okay, so when this started breaking out on the scene, actually the B-boy, as far as I know, was the big guy. I mean, the DJ did his thing. I'm talking about nationally.
right.
Breakdancing was the big thing.
It was, yes,
And then it kind of started sliding off and rap started coming in.
right.
I mean, rap was already around, but I'm saying in the line.
What happened was a lot of people, it was kind of like a growing phenomenon. That was one of the first things that seemed to cross over into more mainstream culture where you seen people in commercials breakdancing. You seen, there was, I remember when I was a kid, there was a 2020 story about breakers in New York. But what happened was that it kind of clicked that, okay, we really can't make money off people breaking. It's not.
Right. And then you got
It's not. It's not as like it's not the money making machine that the music is going to be as far as an MC, a rapper, a face, lyrics, and people just all you had all these corporations, these record companies that latched on, and that was the aspect of the culture they took out that they said we're going to make money. This is going to become a business.
right. And then basically, not only that, but breakdancing also the big scare came with it's dangerous. Kids are gonna
Right.
get hurt. But so that kind of faded off. Rap started picking up, and then slowly, what happened? The rapper realized I don't need breakdancers in my video. Right. I mean,
Well, yeah, and that, I mean
I
that's
don't
what
need
it
the
came down
DJ
to.
anymore. I need someone to make me a beat. I don't need a DJ anymore. Um, I could go over here and rap by this wall where there's already graffiti. I don't need to pay
Right.
someone to do graffiti.
And
Like,
well, and with that, once the corporate culture, the corporate America kind of attached onto the culture and selected that as the money making aspect of it. You had MCs, like you said, it started to be more. It evolved to where the DJ wasn't. DJ has never been obsolete, so I'm not going to say that.
right.
But where MCs were like, okay, I don't need a DJ, and that's where you started to get more producers, where people were like, okay, it's more viable for me to be a producer. It's just people need beats.
Right.
People are going to need beats to rhyme over. I can sell beats, and MCs were like, you had a lot of MCs back then that made beats. You had a lot of MCs, but I mean, there was a different process to it than it is now.
Right. And basically the whole thing is that's the early part of hip hop. That's we're talking 70s, 80s, maybe mid 90s. And I'm not saying that the culture went away then, but what I'm saying is as they slowly phase these things off, I feel like somewhere there's a gap, somewhere between like 97 to 2001 or 2, to where all of those things basically really became irrelevant.
You know, well, I mean, it was really strange, but you started to hear records that people were making records that had no scratches,
Right.
uh, which was kind of signaled a change. Which, I mean, you hear one of the most famous records from early hip hop, The Message, where Grandmaster Flash says, "Even though my name was attached, that had nothing to do with that song."
Right.
Because Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five was supposed to be these MCs that made songs, they toasted, they did things to big up Grandmaster Flash. He was the attraction.
Right.
Well, The Message didn't showcase Grandmaster Flash, so he wasn't really behind that.
Right.
But even at that point, I'm not going to say, well, that signaled a change, but I think that people were like, okay, the Melly Mel really showed that charisma where people were like, you know, the rapper is the guy that usually has this charisma. He's speaking to people, whereas
Right.
the DJs are playing the records. Yes, they're scratching, and people do want to come see them. But as video became the new means of marketing, it wasn't just radio anymore. They needed faces. And MCs
Right.
filled that void in hip hop music, that it wasn't a DJ scratching. It was actually an MC coming out and talking to people and telling these stories.
Right. But I mean, up till the mid 90s, I would say that hip hop culture was still relevant, even if it wasn't used in videos and stuff a lot. Like, the artists that came out still paid respect to all of the stuff that came out
Right.
before them. The graffiti, the turntable, but they throw scratches somewhere on the record. They do certain things to still keep it relevant. And then somewhere in the mid to late 90s, maybe early 2000s, it was almost like a new generation of rappers came in that never seen or paid attention to all that stuff. And we're like, we don't need it.
Well, I wouldn't say that most of your. There's probably a lot of newer cats that have come out in the last 5 years
That are going
really,
back to the culture.
really have. Well, the thing is, you got a lot of guys that are going back to the culture. You have a lot that really don't know their history of the culture, and they're pretty arrogant about it. That okay, I don't need that. But it was kind of like there was everybody wanted to do something different. I mean, that's something within itself. I mean, a lot of artists today, which we won't really get into that. I mean, that could be a whole nother subject, that are making music that are regarded as some of the greats, wouldn't have even lasted in the culture of hip hop in the 80s, because they would have been regarded as biters. They would have been regarded as being unoriginal.
Right. Which is kind of another topic, but that's another reason that I think the culture has kind of died off too, is because if you came out anywhere from the 80s to even the mid 90s almost, you had to get respect from other artists already in the game,
Right.
or you weren't going anywhere.
Right. Well, and I mean, once again, I mean, that's kind of can be a subject for the internet age. I mean, you went from actually having to get respect from people to work with you,
Right.
to even cut a demo, to go to a cipher to step in and rhyme, or touch the turntables at a party, to, well, here we are, I'm going to do this in my bedroom and upload it to YouTube
Right.
and get 1 million views, and now I went viral for some gimmick. A lot of times, a lot of guys are marketing their gimmick along with that, which, I mean, the internet age has helped, and it's also part of it. I mean, there's a lot of things we can look at. The decline in the awareness of the culture, you know, is it on the record labels? Is it on the fans? Is it on the artists?
Right.
You know, can you just pinpoint the blame to one section of that, or is it a combination of all?
Right. And I think it's probably a little bit to do with all. I mean, like, we still see it. I mean, the only people really representing the culture right now are either younger cats that went and did their research before they came out and realized,
Well, and most
this
of the
is what I
time,
want to do.
it's because they are doing hip hop and they live hip hop, but it's out of respect because it's the art. They respect the art. They want to do the art of hip hop. They're doing music for the love. There's so many people that are like, I really have no other trade
Right.
I can rap.
And I run into
I
this
want
all
to
the
make
time.
money.
And I run into this all the time. People say, "Yo, son, I got a song. Come listen to it." And I'm like, "Okay." And then like 90% of them will say, "I'm not a rapper. I'm not good at it. But go listen to my song. Tell me what you think." That's not the way that music's supposed to be.
Right.
And this is the biggest thing. And this is kind of like another subject. But this is what makes me think that eventually, even the real deep hip hop heads, like artist wise, will stop respecting the culture. Like, not necessarily stop respecting it, but stop portraying it. Because, you know, underground rappers now, they still put, you know, oh, I can get some B-boys. Let's put some B-boys in here, all right? Let me get my DJ in
Well,
here.
and I'm telling you, it's we went through that culture there in the late, which I mean, it always existed, but I mean, it almost became a gimmick. And I don't want to just single out 50, but where beef was a promotion tool, where I'm going to start a feud with another rapper.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that all of them were done as marketing tools, but now we've kind of evolved into where a kinder, gentler hip hop to where everybody's like, oh yeah, you know, Soulja Boy's doing his thing. And not just to single out Soulja Boy, but, you know, this artist or that. Where back in the day, they would have said, you know, Ice-T got all the flack for coming out and saying Soulja Boy's not representing hip hop.
Right.
Where back in the day, he would have been backed up 100% by all the people in the culture who loved it that said, okay, he is a young kid. I give him credit as an entrepreneur and starting something, but as far as respecting the art, he's not respecting the art. But there's arguments on other sides too, because there's always been so many different sides to it that people will go, well, a lot of the guys you talk about that were toast and that were doing this stuff, they were talking about having nice things and partying, and you know, people were always making songs about dances or whatever.